Hello guys, today we are doing a new review and comparison, but this time of the sleeping bags. One of the sleeping bags will be Quechua Forclaz Ultralight that we used previously,
and the other sleeping bag will be our new Aegismax Ultralight down bag. And both of them were tested out in the wilderness for a long period of time, and now we're finally ready to share our experience with you.
We're going to discuss and compare their weight and size, compactness, warmth, comfort, durability and price-quality ratio.
We'll try to be as objective as possible, and let's begin.
Here you can see the two sleeping bags in our hands. Straight away you can see how they differ in size and compactness.
When we first received this new Aegismax sleeping bag, we had the similar situation as with our Highcatcher sleeping pads we did a review on earlier on our channel. They seemed incredibly small and compact and allowed us to cut down the weight of our backpack significantly.
But now let's take a look at more detailed specifications. Following the tradition, we'll start by comparing their weight and size.
Aegismax Ultralight sleeping bag has two sizes, M and L,
whereas Quechua has three sizes available, M, L and XL. For the comparison we took size L, which is more universal.
On the official AliExpress store it claims that Aegismax Ultralight sleeping bag weighs 560 grams or around 1 pound 2 ounces. And Quechua Ultralight is 970 grams or 2 pound 1 ounce in size L. The size of Aegismax is 79 inches or 200 centimeters long and 34 inches or 86 centimeters wide. The size of Quechua One is 73 inches or 185 centimeters long and 30 inches or 76.5 centimeters wide. The manufacturers of Aegismax recommend to take the size L for people who are up to 190 centimeters or 6.3 inches tall, and Quechua recommend the size L for people between 170 centimeters and 185 centimeters tall, or between 67 and 73 inches tall. And when it is folded, it compresses down to 21 centimeters or 8 inches high and 12 centimeters or 4.7 inches wide for Aegismax sleeping bag, and around 27 centimeters or 10.6 inches high and 14.5 centimeters or 5.5 inches wide for Quechua One. Basically, two of these Aegismax sleeping bags take as much space as just one Quechua sleeping bag. We personally love how easy and fast we can roll up the Aegismax sleeping bag. It doesn't matter the technique, you will get it done anyway. And compression is also a very easy process. The outer fabric of the Aegismax is an Inflex 20D nylon, and filling is composed by 95% white goose down. And in case of Quechua, the outer fabric and padding is made out of 100% polyester.
Both of the sleeping bags are claiming to be waterproof or water repellent.
But we feel like the Aegismax is soaking up wetness and water quite easily compared to Quechua, where the outer fabric is thicker. So with Aegismax it's important to keep it in a separate plastic bag to prevent any wetness. So we have an obvious winner in the compactness and weight, and it's an Aegismax sleeping bag. It's important to mention that we bought our Quechua sleeping bags 2 years ago, and now this line has been discontinued. Instead, Quechua has a new line of the sleeping bags that are quite a bit lighter and more compact in size. So we encourage you to check the Decathlon website for more details, the link to which we would leave down below.
Secondly, we're going to talk about their warmth and temperature to use them.
On the Aegismax website, it is stated that the comfort temperature is 11 degrees Celsius above zero or 52 degrees Fahrenheit, with the lower limit of plus 6 degrees Celsius and 43 degrees Fahrenheit. And it mentions also the extreme temperature of minus 9 degrees Celsius or 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Quechua has only two temperature ratings with the comfort of 15 degrees Celsius or 59 degrees Fahrenheit and the limit temperature of 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So from that information we understand that the Aegismax bag is more of a 3-season sleeping bag, that is spring, summer, autumn.
And Quechua is likely to be a 1-season bag, suitable mostly for summer.
That being said, we want to share our own experience considering their warmth and temperature. With this Aegismax bag we've been traveling for 4 full months, starting from the late spring to the early autumn, and have been into different weather and temperature patterns at the coast and in the mountains. So we can say that the comfort temperature stated is correct, and we didn't have any inconveniences using it on the normal summer nights and sleeping in the t-shirts. In the mountains we could experience the temperature drop down to 5 degrees Celsius or 45 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was still bearable. But we wouldn't spend like this many nights in a row though, and we had our warm clothes on as well. During one night we had a quite extreme temperature drop down to around 0 degrees or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we survived it quite bad. And if we wouldn't take the extra blanket on the reception of the campsite, we could probably got sick.
So definitely don't pay attention to the Aegismax extreme limit they put, it is simply not accurate.
With Quechua we didn't have such extreme nights, but we can say they are worth holding cold temperatures.
Even though they seem thicker and bulkier, but it doesn't affect the temperature holding. So for the warm summer nights they would be a perfect option. But be aware that they may not be suitable for the mountains, where even in summer the temperatures can get quite low.
Also, it's important to understand that the temperature stated depends on many different factors, like your physical condition, type of sleeping pad you use, clothing you're wearing, and the weather conditions, of course.
So it's always better to buy a sleeping bag with a temperature reserve, especially if you're sensitive to cold like me. And now let's talk about the comfort, probably the most subjective of the features. First of all, let's start by describing the appearance of these two sleeping bags.
As you can see, they look a bit different. Aegismax doesn't have a hood, and it's more of a quilt type of bag, when Quechua is a classical sleeping bag with a hood.
This allows Aegismax to cut down the weight a little bit, not having the hood. And we personally didn't use the hood much anyway, just wearing the hats instead on the colder nights.
Aegismax has a cinch around the neck and a velcro on top, and Quechua has a cinch around the hood accordingly. Aegismax has a single full-length zipper on the side, and Quechua has double zippers on both sides, also full length. Having two zippers adds up to a weight as well.
If you are a couple and you like to connect two sleeping bags together, like us, you can perfectly do so with both Quechua and Aegismax.
Quechua made all their Forclaz Ultralight line interchangeable, so you don't have to worry about which size connects to which. But with Aegismax you can connect only the sizes M and L together, as they only have single side zipper. But we found that because they don't have a hood on them, you can kind of sleep in them on whatever side. And so if you wanted to take two bags of the side L, it would be still possible to connect them.
And we actually wish we bought the two Aegismax in size L, because the weight difference in 50 grams is not that significant, but the spaciousness of the bag increases quite a lot. So if you're a couple, consider taking two Aegismax bags in size L and contribute to a better comfort.
Talking about the spaciousness, we can say that in Quechua sleeping bag it felt quite narrow and clamped inside the bag, and probably only the size XL would be comparable to the Aegismax size L. At the same time, in Aegismax it feels quite spacious even in the size M. But as we already said, size L is the best and the most universal, fitting everybody. Especially in the shoulders, the difference between Quechua and Aegismax becomes really obvious, as Aegismax is 10 cm wider than Quechua.
So if you like to be wild and free when you sleep in, Aegismax will be your option.
What we really like about the Aegismax is their soft-to-touch fabric and feather-like sensation covering you, because they are really light and they barely make any sound when you're moving.
Quechua fabric and padding is sturdier and thicker, and thus it feels heavier on you, and they make more noises when moving as well.
Also on the cooler mountain nights when the air is too cold to breathe, in Aegismax quilt we could cover the entire head with it, and we were able to breathe inside quite freely. Whereas with Quechua, because of the thicker materials, it wasn't that easy to do, and we had to leave the fresh air passage hole for ventilation.
Now it's time to share our opinion about the durability of these two bags. And we feel like both of these bags are solid quality items. They didn't tear apart and zippers didn't break.
Quechua bag feels sturdier, as we already mentioned, both in the materials and zippers. They're quite solid, as you can see. But sometimes they were too hard to connect and disconnect because they are very tight, and you can see that they are lasting. Aegismax, on the contrary, felt really thin materials and unreliable zippers at first sight. But the time proved it wrong. The zippers didn't fall apart after 4 months of everyday use, and just sometimes there is some difficulty in moving them, but if you're doing it smoothly and gently, there isn't any problem. The padding of the goose down is appearing outside the bag from time to time, but the amount of it is minor, and so it's not such a big deal.
I want to say a couple of words about the cleaning and storage of the sleeping bags. It is well known that cleaning can be quite problematic when you're traveling and hiking out in the wilderness. So it's very important for the bag to stay fresh as long as possible. We found that the Aegismax sleeping bag starts to have a nasty smell after some weeks of using it, probably because of some wetness getting inside. And of course, it couldn't be washed in the washing machine.
And the solution we found was just to let it air out for some time, and the smell went away. When we were on the break at the campsite, we would let it hang out all day.
Then when we came back home, we hand washed it in the cold water with soap and just air dried it in the sun. It took 2 to 3 days for them to dry up completely.
With Quechua sleeping bag it wasn't that simple when traveling, and we had to wash it in the washing machine on a delicate 30 degrees program. But they have clear advantage of drying up very quickly compared to the down bag. and so if you have access to washing machine, it won't be a problem.
Talking about the storage, it is advised to store them out of compression bags when not using.
Now we'll talk about the price-quality ratio.
The price for the Aegismax Ultralight down sleeping bag is approximately $78 or £60.
And for the Quechua one is £25 or $32.
It is quite hard to compare the down bag to the synthetic, as they are quite different and so is the price. But from our experience, the quality of the both sleeping bags is quite good, so we can definitely say they are worth the money. Aegismax sleeping bag is light, very easy to carry, and at the same time is warmer than Quechua. Also, it's probably the most economic down sleeping bag you can get on the market.
Quechua has more storage materials and thus heavier, water repellent and easy to clean and wash.
So I would say if you need a 3-season sleeping bag and concerned about weight, the best choice would be an Aegismax.
And Quechua bag would be perfect if you just need budget-friendly summer bag and don't care about heavier weight.
You can buy the Aegismax sleeping bag on their official AliExpress website and also on Amazon.com. They are available in green and black colors, and you can grab the Quechua one from the Decathlon UK website. You can choose from purple and green colors there. You can find the links to these websites in the description below the video.
So in conclusion, we want to say that for us personally, the Aegismax down sleeping bag is the best choice. We like its compactness, lightness and warmth. It easily fits in the 20-liter backpack, and we could significantly reduce the weight and the space used in the backpack thanks to it. So for now, it's a perfect budget-friendly summer quilt to us.
And that was all the comparison we planned to make today. It turned out to be quite a long video, but hopefully you could learn some important and useful information from it.
We're always in the search for more good quality budget-friendly options, so if you know any other sleeping bags to mention, don't hesitate to leave it in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up so we know that you enjoy this type of videos from us, and let us know on which items you would like to see another review.
Make sure to subscribe and hit notification bell next to the button to never miss a new video on our channel. And we'll see you again very soon.
Bye guys!